China fell into intense chaos when nearly $6 billion worth of deposits froze out of nowhere. The government had no choice but to send in the police to take control of the protests. When the riot died down, a shocking number of Chinese homebuyers refused to pay their mortgages, which are a total worth of $300 billion. As a result, mortgage payments were put on hold in 301 projects in 91 cities. This seems to be a flashback of the 2008 recession, but on a much grander scale. This has caused a growing social revolt, despite the CCP's efforts to censor it. According to internal government meetings, there is substantial stress in the CCP, and based on the signs, it's only about to get worse. This social unrest revealed the fragility of China's economy, and it may have a massive impact on the global economy as well. Welcome to Imminent Investments. For today's video, we'll talk about the impending downfall of China's economy and how this can potentially affect investors from all over the world. Stay tuned to hear more about this alarming news. But before we get into it, do give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. If you're done with that, then let's get into it. Over 400,000 Chinese citizens were shocked to see their bank deposits being frozen. This caused widespread panic and annoyance as they were not able to withdraw their own money due to a controversial fraudulent scheme. News about the bank freeze have gone viral on Chinese social platforms despite CCP's desperate attempts to tone them down. According to the government, only 5 banks were affected by the freeze, but other banks are not safe from the very same incident. Following the event's viral moments on social media, the social unrest reached almost every part of the country. According to a leaked internal government property meeting, there are several issues that China is currently facing. 1. 300 million square footage of property construction has been put on hold. 2. Local governments are struggling to get by. 3. A 200 to 300 billion yuan property fund is barely enough. 4. There is a 20% decrease rate on property sales. 5. Construction starts have plummeted as well. However, the worst one yet is China's recent mortgage revolt. Because Chinese homebuyers refuse to pay their mortgages, financial authorities have crafted a plan that will allow people to temporarily pause their mortgage payments, which resulted in about 2 trillion yuan or $300 billion in unpaid mortgage balances. However, there are unseen consequences of both the mortgage suspension and the recent bank freeze. A cascading effect is bound to happen. The aforementioned 5 banks led to the collapse of 20 more banks, and so on, eventually affecting the entire banking system. This vulnerability is caused by the Chinese banking system's reliance on fractional reserves, which is quite common in most countries' financial infrastructures. When you deposit $1,000 into the bank doesn't keep that full amount. Instead, it holds $100 as reserves and lends out $900 so that they can earn interest income. The borrower who accepts the $900 will then spend it on whatever goods and services they prefer. As we all know, spending becomes someone else's income. Whoever that person is will deposit the $900 back into the bank. With this, the bank can now loan out $810 while they keep $90 as reserves. This becomes a cycle, with the $810 being spent becoming income and getting deposited to the bank. This repetitive cycle causes the bank's lending capacity to go up, reaching up to 10 times its very first deposit. This phenomenon is called the monetary multiplier effect. With the example above, the money supply was initially at $1,000. However, because of the multiplier effect, it increased to $10,000, with $9,000 being essentially created out of nowhere. But then when citizens tried withdrawing their money concurrently, it was found that the banks do not actually hold all the deposited funds, because much of it was created through the money-making process. This incident has evoked concerns among economists all over the world, deeming China's recent social unrest as a major factor in China's downfall. However, the mortgage boycott did not happen overnight. It was the result of consecutive years of mismanagement and greed, which triggered mounting frustration. This then paved the way to the recent boycott. Housing prices are already increasing by the day, causing Chinese citizens to eagerly purchase available properties. This is very similar to the culmination of the US 2008 recession, when the housing price crash was unbelievable. Consequently, people poured in effort, time, and finances to be able to make these purchases, and an estimated 70 to 80% of Chinese household assets became linked to property. Furthermore, the cultural highlight on home ownership further strengthened this behavior, leading to a buying frenzy that supported the property market to succeed for decades. To meet this demand, property developers capitalized on their greed and expanded the business. This is where the pre-sale model came into effect. The property pre-sale model is basically buyers placing a deposit to start mortgage payments on houses that are yet to be made. It may seem irrational to buy mortgages for homes that don't even exist yet, but at the time of the housing bubble frenzy, it made sense to most people as they thought housing prices would continue to increase. To secure properties while the price is low, prospective homebuyers dove headfirst in the pre-sale rounds. The Chinese National Bureau of Statistics said that 34% of property development income is from pre-sales. Property developers utilize the money from pre-sale rounds to sell even more pre-sale homes, which looks very similar to a Ponzi scheme. This model will keep growing as long as house prices keep increasing as well. However, it all came crashing down when buyers started becoming skeptical. Usually, developers provide a time frame for when the properties would be finished. When they failed to comply, home buyers started to think that there were unseen agendas. On top of that, developers also didn't have the funds to complete construction, as they had used the money from newer pre-sales to support previous ones. Once again, it looks like a Ponzi scheme. Even before the boycott happened, it was very common for property developers to disappoint customers in delivering pre-sold homes. Back in June 2022, a petition was signed by 900 buyers. They demanded Evergrande, the biggest property developer during that time, to continue construction within the next 3 months. When this expanded to 301 projects across 91 cities, there had been reports of missing mortgage payments. This caused such a scandal that the Chinese government tried to cover it up. However, this only added fuel to the fire. Although there are issues regarding illegality and cultural traditions, the government enabled the halting of mortgage payments, but this is only temporary. Back in 2022, the CCP even cut mortgage rates multiple times. However, the lack of lending restrictions only worsens the situation because it may lead to the rise of loans to pay off the ones that came before it. The issue about the unfinished properties may potentially lead to the loss of over $58 billion in loans, which has the potential to affect trillions of dollars worth of mortgages. In the previous bank scam that took place in Henan province, the Chinese government used manipulative tactics which caused social panic and increased tension. This can also be observed in the case of Yangmingshan, where health codes were used as an excuse to suppress protests outside banks. A small number of Chinese officials were fired, but this didn't stop the bank depositors from continuing the protests. On July 10, 2022, affected citizens rallied at 4 rural banks that kept $5.9 billion in frozen deposits, causing controversial attention on various social media platforms. In response to this, the government reimbursed citizens who lost up to 50,000 yuan, which is about $7,500. The majority of these affected citizens had given up their entire life savings to these banks, thinking that their money is kept safely. Although the government usually insures bank deposits of up to 500,000 yuan, this insurance does not cover losses that are effects of fraudulent activities. As seen with the case of Henan province, depositors fell victim to a fraudulent scheme caused by Henan New Fortune. This included illegal fund transfers and falsifications of loans. The money, which is supposedly used for lending to citizens, was misused by Henan New Fortune for personal motivations. With the activity's fraudulent nature, the deposits failed to qualify for government insurance. This raises the valid question of how ordinary citizens are supposed to decipher the bank's involvement in corrupt activities. Some may say that depositors should have done their own due diligence. However, some scams are incredibly hard to spot because many fraudsters go out of their way to mask their agendas. China is definitely going downward with all these issues. On top of what was discussed, the country is also in a demographic crisis because of the decline in birth rates, which will only continue to strain the economy in the years to come. The combination of fraudulent acts, economic mismanagement, government censorship, and the decline in birth rates has caused the deterioration of China's economy. However, everyone must know that this issue not only affects China, but the whole world as well. That's it for today's video. If you're interested in our content, subscribe to our channel to remain up to date with the latest news in the world of finance. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.